This took place after I graduated high school and moved away from my family. I moved up to Alaska to attend college, and conveniently, my mother had been renting out our old house instead of selling it. I say conveniently because the long-standing residents had recently moved away, and therefore I was awarded the old house. I had to work quite a bit to keep up the payments, but my mother pitched in, thankfully. I should also make you aware that I had recently broken up with a girl who had been staying with me in the old house I was renting through my mother, and this breakup was unclean and dysfunctional, much like the relationship itself. It was winter break, which means I would be spending more time inside than I normally would. It was somewhat lonely in the house, being without a stable girlfriend then. Also, there's no neighbors really to speak of, as the house was in an extremely wooded region a few miles out of town. One late afternoon, after I thought the whole breakup predicament had come to a close, I was made quite aware that it wasn't. My cell phone began ringing and ringing from an unknown caller. Cliché, I know. And I decided to pick up. It was, of course, my ex. She began telling me how great her new boyfriend is, and how horrible I was and am. The sort of talk that you can almost smell the booze off the caller's breath from miles away. I actually listened until she decided to hand the phone to her boyfriend, where he instead sounded oddly threatening, and I decided to hang up in the most polite manner possible, with a "fuck you and have a nice day." Days later, I'm laying on the living room couch watching some TV. While laying there, I noticed something quite unsettling. A person standing in the window behind me. How did I notice this, you ask? The reflection of the TV screen is how. I didn't move, not an inch. I had no gun, and I had no knife. I had nothing but my wit and my fists. I lay there, watching the reflection. Eventually it moved from the window. That normally wouldn't spook me, but I was taking into account that 1, the house was nowhere near another one, so there's one red flag. 2, if someone was just wanting to talk, they'd knock on the door. And 3, I was certain it was that boyfriend of hers. Nothing came of that situation, but similar situations continued, such as a car pulling into the driveway and no one getting out, and then leaving inconspicuously. This was worrisome at least, but I didn't suspect a true threat. A few days later, I'm laying in bed at night. It was very late, and I was getting ready to sleep, when I get another call from an unknown number. It is her, but this time she's asking me to come outside and come see her because she wants to deliver an apology. At the time I was thinking, oh, shall we say fuck off? Though I still went outside to see what the deal was. I open the door, and of course it's incredibly dark. I say into the phone, I'm outside. Come around back. With this, I begin to walk on the snow-covered ground in the darkness. The motion light turns on as I cross the garage and the driveway. The snow masking the ground is tinted yellow by the light. I round the corner of the garage and turn my phone to see. There's a road that runs behind my house and connects to the driveway, and I make my way towards the road. The snow crunches beneath my boots as I move closer. There's a part in the trees that allows me to walk straight to the road, otherwise one would have to make his way around the entirety of the driveway, and I reach this part. I ask into the phone, "Where are you?" "In the car. I see you." I stepped onto the road and see her car parked a few dozen feet away from me with the lights dimmed. "So what's the deal?" "I just want to talk. Come here." I approach the car and make my way around to the passenger side, and I finally see her face. She waves me in, and I go ahead and oblige, sitting down in the car. I look at her and she says, "Look, I'm sorry. I know I've been a real bitch lately." "No, it's okay. I really wasn't good to you and I deserved it." "I don't agree, but..." Then she abruptly stops speaking because car lights shine from behind us. Naturally, I assume it's her boyfriend, and by the look on her face, she did too. The car parks behind us, and sure enough, the boyfriend gets out and storms over to my side of the car. He yanks on the door handle, and the door swings open and he attempts to grab me, but I grabbed his wrist and got out of the car. "What the fuck do you think you were doing with her, huh?" "We were talking. I was about to leave." "Bullshit! You're trying to fucking bang her." "Look, I'm trying to sleep. I'm in no mood to do anything." He gave me this look of utter enragement before swinging at me and missing. A little scuffle ensued, and all that happened was him swearing and eventually slipping and falling before yelling at us both, "I'll fucking kill you." I just stood there by her car as he pulled away. She gave me a lift back to the house, and I invited her in, and she obliged. It was late in the night, and I suggested she lock her car if she was going to stay the night, and she again obliged. We slept upstairs in my bed before I awoke hours later. There was a banging at the back door, and I knew this because the back door was directly below my room. She woke up too and said, "Oh my God!" I stand up quickly and go to my closet and reach behind the coats that I'll never wear and grab my Louisville Slugger. She was sitting upright in my bed with her hands embarrassingly covering her eyes. I didn't say anything before walking down the stairs slowly, attempting to be silent. The lights were off, and there were no windows on the staircase, and the banging on the back door had ceased. I held my bat tightly, making sure it didn't bang into the wall to signal my position at the time. I remembered how slowly I stepped down, especially on the bottom 3 steps, which were always the creakiest. Once I reached the last step, I froze, and what I heard still gives me chills to this day. The hardwood floors creak around the bottom of the staircase, but there was also a creaking that was growing closer and closer. I raised my bat above my head, ready to slam whoever it was on top of the head. The creaking grew closer until I could hear it from my side, and I planned to swing as soon as it was in front of me. I listened ever so carefully, holding my breath. The creaking was coming from my northeast, and I squeezed my hands tighter than I ever had before around the bat, waiting for it to be just north of me. I then heard the creaks directly in front of me, and I slammed the bat down hard. I hit something, and whatever it was crumpled to the floor with a bang and a small flash. I turned on the light, and there he was, the boyfriend. He had shot his gun directly at the floor and left a hole in the hardwood. My ex came down the stairs and was crying profusely, muttering, "I'm so sorry," over and over. I called the local police station, and 4 cops pulled into my driveway along with an ambulance in a matter of minutes. I sat there at the base of the stairs, watching the boyfriend. I could tell from his chest slowly inclining and declining off the floor that he was still breathing. I had grabbed what I thought was a 9mm off of the floor, and I kept it in my hand with the safety turned on, and I just shook my head over and over in utter disbelief. I explained the situation to the police as the paramedics rushed in and carried him out on a stretcher. All in all, I didn't get to sleep until in the afternoon later that day, after all things had been finished. He ended up being in a coma and eventually recovered, but a restraining order had already been filed in advance. My ex and I became good friends after the incident, and she never dated that guy again. I never ended up moving, though I had considered it heavily, and nothing has since happened. I'm a 14-year-old girl, and I, like the majority of teenagers, enjoy being home alone. My dad works from home, so very rarely does this happen, but when the opportunity arises, I will take it. One day both of my parents decided to take my brother to chess class, and then go shopping in a strip mall nearby. They asked me if I wanted to come, but seeing the chance to binge eat Halloween candy and watch Dexter with the sound turned up all the way, I decided to stay home, something that I now regret. They tried to convince me to come, but I didn't like going outside, so they left me a couple minutes later. I settled in for a few hours of peace, with a mountain of Twix and Kit Kats, and the glory that is Michael C. Hall. After a few episodes, the candy was gone, and all I had left were the shiny wrappers that I would probably sell my soul for. I went to throw them out and mourn the loss of the glorious chocolate caramel cookie that is Twix, when I saw that the trash can was near overflowing. It was about 6:30 by now, but dark enough to basically be the middle of the night. I wasn't exactly comfortable to go outside in the dark, especially when the house next to me hasn't had anyone living in it for the past 2 years, which means bank people or whatever are constantly walking around it. However, the garbage bin is right next to the garage door, and I can get outside and back in about 5 seconds, so I decided to risk it. I went outside and threw my trash away, and as I was turning to go back in, I saw a man walking by. This isn't really uncommon, as I live on a busy street, and I live in an upper middle class area, so there's not that much crime, and people go walking at night all the time. I thought it was kind of weird that he was wearing all black, because normally people want to be seen in the dark so they don't get hit by cars, but it didn't seem that strange. He was on his phone, and he didn't even look up at me, which I was thankful for, because I was wearing a nightgown and my hair was a mess. I ran back inside and hit the button that closed the garage door. As it was slowly climbing down, the man raced inside. I was in shock. I just stared at him. We made eye contact, and he didn't have crazy eyes or anything. He looked perfectly normal. The garage door shut, and he smiled wide. I shrieked and slammed the door that led from the house into the garage shut, and I locked it. He started yelling at me about just wanting to be friends. Yes, Creeper Man. I, a teenage girl, home alone, will gladly befriend you, a man who just ran into my garage. I immediately called my parents. I probably should have called the police, but I didn't want them to come home and have this strange man jump out and attack them once they got inside. They didn't pick up, of course, so I texted them frantically, then called 911, who said that they would send out a squad car. The next 10 minutes were probably the most frightening moments of my life. The operator stayed on the phone with me and told me not to go outside in case he had anyone else out there, but I could hear him in the garage. He didn't try to break the door down or anything. Instead, he scratched it and jiggled the doorknob and called for me to open the door, which was probably scarier than if he had actually tried to break the door down. I heard the garage door open and close, and soon after the police came. The guy was outside sitting in front of the garage of the empty house next door. He said he was a landscaper, and that he just wanted to talk with me, and that we had spoken before, and we were friends. I was basically hysterical at this point, and with my sugar-addled brain, I couldn't even form coherent sentences. The cops did arrest him, and my parents came home. They saw I was alright, and then seemed more concerned about the car that was in the garage than about me. I can't blame them. That car is older than I am, and has sentimental value. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. If you would like a chance to have your story featured in an upcoming video, make sure you check the description on information on how to submit your stories. Both of these stories were found on Reddit, and I'll have a link in the description in case you'd like to go check them out. Now for the first story. I actually didn't expect the story to go the way it did. I was expecting her to be luring you into a trap, but it actually turned out she was just wanting to apologize. Thankfully, this person made enough noise when breaking in to wake you both up, and at least you had a bat to defend yourself. It's also probably a good thing that it was dark, otherwise he probably would have had the jump on you. But thankfully, we don't have to worry about that. I'm glad you guys made it out of the situation okay, and it's cool that you guys are still friends. Hopefully you don't have to see that douchebag again. Now for the second story. I'm glad you noticed this man outside and saw him sneaking in. I've actually seen a couple cases like this where people sneak in when your door's closing and they try to rob you. Thankfully you were able to get inside the house and keep him in the garage, and luckily the police made it in time to arrest this guy. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next video. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true.